This one hasn't been in here much. It was good. It worked. So I took it apart. This is one of the few times, I don't know if I've ever done this before, where I've removed boost. So this 2014 6-speed auto Mustang has done very well at about 700 rear-wheel horsepower with about 12 pounds of boost from a supercharger, original engine, original transmission, no signs of issues, very happy. So the whole combo works so well that I am selling it. And unfortunately, the market does not want to pay anything for the supercharger. So I have a Coyote powered Fox body that could really use another 250 horsepower. So we're unboosting this car. I'm going to leave the full exhaust and other goodies on it, but just take the supercharger off. Try to fit it on the Fox body. And this one can sell for a more reasonable price without a blower on it. And someone gets a cool car with a little bit less beans, but it's also a little lower maintenance car. Remove the methanol injection and we'll tune it back to work. I still haven't decided whether or not I'm going to put the Gen 1 intake back on it or try and make the Gen 4 dual throttle body work. I have a way to run that second throttle body with a nitrous controller of all things that I kind of want to try, but this engine bay layout does not, we'll see, but it doesn't look good with a dual throttle body, so we'll see if there's a clean enough way to do it and get it to come back through one mass airflow sensor, which seems like a real waste. But because I can tune it with the whatever mass airflow coefficient that I want, I can probably put a pretty big pipe on it over to the cold air intake side and probably make it so that it's happy to hook to one thing. We'll see. It's not supposed to become a product. It was supposed to become remove blower and detune. But it's hard to avoid making them into a project. So anyways, a little different to see me making a car go slower, but sometimes that happens too. The problem with superchargers is they're heavy. When you're by yourself in the shop and you're trying to rig a way to take it out, you're too lazy to take the hood off to use the block. I think we got a rail. We'll see if it works. So we've got a old aluminum rail. It's had scrap. This ratchet strap is hanging on for dear life. And we got this ratchet strap helping hook this together, but also being the slide control. And then we get all the way out to here, and then we find this hose, of course. There's always one more hose at the back. And so this is where it's nice that it's on a rail, and I'm not trying to drop this thing back down to get that hose off. So it's not slick, but it's working. We built a little table here as a parking spot, and got the slider out of the way, so now we're just one back twist from thugging around to the bench. Okay, it's dyno day again. This time we got a stock 14 5-liter with headers and the 2024 intake. The second throttle body will be hooked up later. It is just being controlled by a nitrous controller, so it's just an on-off switch. We have a cold air intake set up from an Edelbrock supercharger, which is the larger 4-inch MAF. We're going to duct both throttle bodies through that. The 3D printed duct should be here in a bit, and we'll see how it performs. The wiring to run it off a nitrous controller is just to steal the 2 wires going to the actual motor. No feedback loop, you just power it up with 12 volts, it opens the door. Using the controller, you just do that late in the curve, somewhere over 5,000 RPM at a wide open throttle. And that should not piss the torque controls off too much, but this one is tuned, so I have control of the some of the torque limiters, and they are disabled already from this thing used to be a supercharger tune. So yeah, but anyways, curious to see how the 24 intake works on a Gen 1 motor. We did that already, but that motor had Holley EFI and aftermarket cams, so not really most people's combo. Let's see how it works on a pretty typical Gen 1 combo. So there we go. Alright, so here is the prototype intake. It's got some angles and some tape that we're still working out, but we've got it all connected. We've been working on the dyno here. I haven't done any cam tuning yet, so it's still a stock Gen 1 cam tuning, which is probably not exactly right for the new curve, but let's see. I'm gonna put up a graphic here, but essentially we got the red line is the torque curve and horsepower curve of a stock Gen 1 intake manifold, and then we have the light green line is the 2024 intake with 1 throttle body, and then the darker green line is the 2024 intake with both throttle bodies opening. So these are all standard correction factors, which is because we have cooler weather up here. This is actually closer to what I really run, but it's all same correction factor, same ratios. So the only thing different, there's a lot of differences here between the Gen 1 run and the Gen 4 runs. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago when I had the Gen 1 intake on. Things are close, but I think there is some differences. I can't remember them all. Even the tire weight is different. So that's not going to be dead on, but it is a really good indicator of the curve. If you look at the Gen 1's going to win the torque curve until just about 5,200, and at that point the horsepower and torque advantage go to the 24 intake, and then it goes way above that. So we're definitely going to be shifting way up the curve to get this to work on a 6-speed, but we're not going to go below 5,000 RPM at any time, so that will fix that. We worked it over a little longer. We're able to get 434 peak horsepower at 7150. So the cams, the intake cam, we put 2 degrees more advance in it, and the exhaust cam we took 2 out. In the end, we tried everything, moved everything around a bit. It made 10 horsepower difference all in. We also had to get a little more timing into it. We actually had timing sensitivity, so it would do a little more if it wasn't octane limited. This is just 94 octane pump gas. So that screen's not so great. I'll get you a better graphic. But anyways, I'm pretty happy with that, especially with where we could move the peaks to. Obviously we're going to want to get the shift to drop no lower than about here, but should be no problem getting that fat horsepower and curve to get to the ground. Remember, this background is the Gen 1. There is a long tube header swap in here too, so the long tubes usually help down here, so maybe it's covering up for a little bit of torque loss. So it's definitely not apples to apples, but the torque peak and gains of the Gen 4 are definitely in there. And we definitely have a very heavy tire. So if we wanted to have a little more glamorous dyno, we would have a way lighter tire. But anyways, I was here to tune. I'll just see if I can dig those tables up, so make sure I got them right. Let's see. Let's see. That's a bad sound. That's enough of that. So we have a stock file to compare to in the background. But intake valve opening, I have a little blending in there too because the stock one moves so quickly the cams don't always follow. But that's stock. That's the difference. That's what we ended up with after about 3 hours in the dyno. So barely worth moving it around. And then exhaust. That's what we ended up with. That's stock. That's the difference. Helped a bit. And I don't think we had a ton of timing, like it's touching knock, right? So we, even that last pull, we have a little bit of knock happening right here. But at the end of the day, we got 28 degrees of timing in at peak there. We were down 27, 26, 27. So it's very close to enough octane with pump gas, but not quite. So limiter's set right now at 7,700. Probably for best performance of the track, we should probably squeak that a little higher because of the 6-speed and the RPM drop. But because we just touch, there it is. So yeah, it really should pull a lot better than stock. We're pretty lean up there too. I did lean it out and moved it around a bit there. It didn't become, it gained a little bit and didn't become any more knock sensitive. So we were at 0.89 lambda target. So I'd say on the lean side, but, and all these poles are in third gear, so that also screws everything up. That is not direct, but it's also 315 gear car, so I don't need to be doing 8 gazillion miles an hour over and over again. I mean, this is kilometers, right? But still, if you're doing a million pulls to get tuning done, you're dealing with 205 kilometers an hour every time. There's some risk to that, so we did all the pulls in third. And you can see we got coolant temp is at 182, intake air is 91 in Fahrenheit. So she's definitely not the perfect weather for it, but also not smoking hot either. So, but yeah, she's pretty good results.